Daniel placed a check for $10 million in front of his daughter. "This is for you," he said. "For everything I could not give you before." Maya looked at the number, but she did not touch it. Instead, she lifted an old cardboard box onto the table. Inside were photographs, birthdays, school plays, Christmas mornings, and one empty chair that appeared again and again. She pushed the box toward him. "You still owe me," she said. Daniel looked from the photographs to the check. For most of his life, he had believed money was proof that his sacrifices meant something. Now he had more of it than his family could ever spend. And for the first time, it could not buy him the one thing he wanted: a place in the next photograph. 3 weeks earlier, Daniel had sold the logistics company he built for $86 million. The newspapers called him disciplined, relentless, and self-made. None of them mentioned the dinners that went cold while he answered emails. They did not know about the vacations he joined through video calls or the promises that always ended with the same 2 words: next time. Daniel had not grown up with money. His father repaired elevators and counted every bill twice before paying it. When Daniel became a parent, he made himself a promise: his daughter would never feel that kind of fear. So he worked. At first, he stayed late to cover rent. Then to hire employees. Then to open another office. Eventually, he stayed because the company had learned to reward the version of him that never went home. Each missed evening appeared to have a reasonable explanation. Success had not stolen Daniel from his family in one dramatic moment. He had traded himself away in pieces too small to frighten him: one dinner, one weekend, one promise at a time. By the time the cost became visible, everyone had learned how to live without expecting him. The problem was that reasonable explanations can still become an unreasonable life. Daniel and Maya had not eaten alone together in almost 2 years. They exchanged birthday messages and spoke briefly on holidays. She sent him photographs of his 8-year-old granddaughter, Sophie. Daniel replied with heart symbols, then returned to whatever meeting had interrupted him. After the sale, Daniel called Maya and invited her to the private dining room of a hotel overlooking the city. "Just dinner," he said. "No business." Maya almost laughed at the last 2 words. When she arrived, the room contained flowers, a bottle from the year she was born, and a view Daniel had paid to keep private for the evening. He had planned every detail except what he would say. For 20 minutes, he explained the sale. He described the negotiations, the final signature, and the moment the money entered his account. Maya listened politely. Then Daniel took the check from his jacket. He placed it between them with both hands. "I know I was not always there," he said. "But everything I built was for you." Maya read the amount. $10 million could pay off her home, secure Sophie's future, and remove every ordinary financial fear from her life. Daniel watched her face, waiting for relief. Perhaps even gratitude. Instead, Maya asked him a question. "Do you remember my first piano recital?" Daniel searched his memory. "You wore a blue dress," he said. "That was graduation." He looked down. Maya reached under her chair and lifted the cardboard box onto the table. She had brought it because she suspected Daniel would arrive with a grand gesture. On top was a photograph of a 9-year-old girl at a piano. In the front row, beside her mother, was an empty seat with a folded program on it. Daniel had purchased that seat. He had simply never sat in it. There were dozens of photographs. Maya holding a birthday cake while looking toward the front door. Maya receiving a school award beside her mother. Maya at the hospital after Sophie was born. Daniel appeared in some of them, but even then, a phone was often visible in his hand. On the back of each photograph, Maya's mother, Anna, had written a date and a short note. "Flight delayed. Important client. He will make it next time." Anna had died 6 years earlier. Daniel had dealt with the grief the same way he dealt with every frightening thing. He worked longer. One photograph showed Anna cutting Maya's birthday cake while speaking to Daniel on a phone placed near the empty chair. Daniel remembered that call. He had sent an expensive gift and listened while an entire room sang without him. At the time, hearing their voices had made him feel present. The photograph showed the truth. At the bottom of the box was a drawing Maya made when she was 7. 3 figures stood in front of a small house. Her mother and daughter were drawn in bright colors. Daniel was a gray rectangle inside an office window. "I do not hate you," Maya said. "That would be easier." She pushed the check back across the table. "But you cannot pay for the years and call the debt settled." Daniel left the restaurant with the check and the box. The next morning, he began solving the problem the only way he understood. He contacted the theater where Maya had performed as a child and offered to rent it for a private concert. He sent her details for a month-long family trip through Europe. A new car appeared outside her house with a ribbon across the hood. Maya returned every offer. Finally, she called him. "Please stop sending me things. I am trying to make this right." "No," she said. "You are trying to make it finished." The sentence stayed with him. Daniel wanted a price, an action, or a signature that would transform him from the father who had failed into the father who had repaired everything. But remorse was not a receipt. And forgiveness was not something Maya owed him because he was finally ready to ask for it. A few days later, Daniel visited the company's headquarters to help complete the transition to its new owners. At 6 in the evening, he found a young manager named Luis closing his laptop. "Leaving already?" Daniel asked. Luis hesitated. His daughter was performing in a school play. He had promised to be there, but a shipping report was due the next morning. Daniel almost gave the answer he had given employees for 30 years. "Handle the responsibility first. Your family will understand." Then he noticed the paper ticket beside Luis's keyboard. A child had drawn a small heart around the seat number. Daniel saw the empty chair from Maya's piano recital. Not in the past. In front of him. The company had not only rewarded his absence. It had learned to reproduce it in everyone below him. Daniel remembered the culture he had celebrated: midnight messages answered immediately, vacations interrupted without complaint, employees praised for being available at any hour. He had called it commitment. He had never asked how many empty chairs the company created outside its walls. "Go," Daniel said. "What about the report?" Daniel sat at the empty desk. "I will finish it." For the first time, he remained at work so someone else could go home. The following Saturday, Daniel drove to Maya's house without flowers or gifts. He stayed in the car and called first. "May I come in?" There was a long silence. Maya allowed him 20 minutes. Daniel did not defend himself. He did not explain poverty, pressure, or the hundreds of employees who once depended on him. He said, "I kept telling myself I was missing your life to protect it. Eventually, I was protecting the business from your life." Maya watched him carefully. "What do you want from me?" she asked. "A chance." "A chance is still something you want me to give you." Daniel nodded. "Then tell me what I can give." Maya thought for a moment. "Do not arrive with a plan. Arrive when you say you will. And do not make me comfort you when this is difficult." It was not forgiveness. It was a boundary. Daniel accepted it. Over the next month, Daniel began with ordinary things. He arrived on Tuesday to repair a loose cabinet door. He collected Sophie from school when Maya worked late. He sat through a long story about playground politics without checking his phone. Some visits were awkward. Maya did not reward every effort with warmth. Daniel learned to leave without asking whether he had done well. One Tuesday, Maya forgot he was coming and arrived home late. Daniel waited on the front step for 40 minutes. In the past, he would have considered the delay disrespectful and left. This time, he understood that waiting was not wasted time. It was part of becoming someone whose promises could be trusted. Then the company scheduled its final acquisition ceremony on the same evening as Sophie's school performance. Daniel was expected to stand on stage while the new owners celebrated the deal. His name was printed on the invitations. The financial press would be there. Sophie had one line in her play. Maya did not ask Daniel to attend. She simply mentioned the performance while they washed dishes. For most of his life, Daniel would have called the ceremony an obligation and the play something that could be recorded. This time, he called the company. "Take my name off the program," he said. Then he turned off his phone. Daniel reached the school 20 minutes early. He carried no flowers and told nobody about the event he had declined. He found a seat in the last row, where Sophie would not feel watched by a stranger she was still learning to call Grandpa. When the lights dimmed, he noticed an empty chair beside him. For a moment, he imagined all the empty chairs he had left behind. He understood that sitting in this one did not erase any of them. Then Sophie stepped onto the stage. She delivered her single line too quickly, looked into the audience, and found her mother. Then she saw Daniel. Her shoulders relaxed. After the performance, families gathered for photographs. Daniel remained near the exit. He did not assume he belonged in theirs. Maya watched him preparing to leave. Then she raised her hand. "Dad." Daniel stopped. She pointed to the empty space beside Sophie. "If you want to be in the next picture, stay." Maya did not forgive 20 years in one evening. Real relationships do not change as quickly as stories sometimes pretend they do. There were still difficult conversations. There were memories Daniel could not repair and moments Maya would never get back. But Daniel finally understood what he owed her. Not $10 million. Not a perfect apology or a dramatic sacrifice. He owed her the truth without excuses, patience without demanding a reward, and time that was not merely whatever remained after work. Money had allowed Daniel to provide for his family. It had also allowed him to hide from the ways he had failed them. The check was easier to offer because it asked nothing of him after the ink dried. Presence was different. It had to be paid again every day. The deepest debts in a family are rarely measured in money. They are measured in calls not returned, questions never asked, and ordinary moments treated as replaceable. Daniel could not repay the past. He could only stop borrowing from the future. Weeks later, Daniel opened the cardboard box again. The old photographs had not changed. But on top of them was a new one, Sophie in her costume, Maya beside her, and Daniel standing slightly awkwardly at the edge of the frame. There was no check in his hand and no phone in his pocket. For the first time, Daniel was not promising to be there next time. He was already there.